Oh, okay.
Go that way. Well, it happened again. All the video that we had recording or troubleshooting using the multimeter ended up getting lost. For whatever reason, couldn't recover the video. So I included these screenshots of the user manual that we downloaded, just an electronic version. It's a PDF file. And the first thing we did was test the voltage going to the CDI unit. It's the first step in their troubleshooting steps. You can see the section from the manual for reference at the top left corner. But yeah, you just test your voltage going to the CDI unit, and then we moved on to the next step. The next step here I highlighted. We did not actually go through these steps. When we got the quad, we noticed that the spark plug wire was damaged, so I needed to replace it, and we found a inexpensive tune-up kit that included a spark plug wire, and ignition coil. So we ended up just replacing it all, and then we went ahead and tested for spark again. Still no spark, so that meant we had to go on to the next step. Next, we measured the pickup coil peak voltage, and here it shows you how to connect it and test for it. The top section of this page shows you what the pickup coil peak voltage should be, which is more than 2.5 volts. So then we moved on to the next step, where we test the resistance of the pickup coil, and this is where the test failed. It's supposed to be between 90 and 140 ohms, and ours is only showing 20 ohms of resistance. So that indicated we had a pickup coil issue. So we went ahead and found a replacement part, got it in, and started working on the four-wheeler. I apologize, we don't have any video of tearing apart the quad due to we were having a family barbecue, and my son and his uncle decided they'd start working on the four-wheeler while I was busy barbecuing, and they got it all tore down and started putting it back together, and it didn't go back together as planned. It got bound up in the gears, wouldn't shift, like we couldn't get it into neutral after they got it together. So went ahead and tore it back down, and I had the joy of trying to figure out how to put the puzzle back together without having to tore down properly, without myself tearing it apart. So I definitely recommend you get a manual if you're going to try to do this, just as it does help. It gives you some good information. But I didn't use it to figure this out. Funny thing is, we were down at the shop, we tore it all apart, and I had to figure out how these gears went on. There's that shifting fork you can see just behind that upper gear. So that upper gear, the lower gear, and that small gear all come off. And that's where I was trying to figure out if they were set up properly. And I think one gear was reversed, and that's why it was binding up. And the tricky part is just getting it all slid on there, the case and cover, to where nothing misaligns after you get it on there. You shouldn't have to force it. The small piece here at the top is what we're replacing.
Okay.
It was a universal part, so it just came with bare wire ends. But my son fed it through the existing wire loom, and we'll wire it up once we get the case back onto the four-wheeler.
So why is it? Oh, it looks like it.
After we got it running, it didn't want to idle. We really had to use quite a bit of starter fluid to get it running. So we were pretty sure, because it had been sitting, that we needed to clean the carburetor. So we ended up getting a carburetor rebuild kit with a larger jet on there, which was, we jetted at 4R altitude, try to get the power band in there, but you can see the goo that's we found inside the carburetor. Fuel definitely solidified it, so we let it soak for a little bit and then cleaned it out. It was a good experience for my son. You got to see the makings or the internal parts to a carburetor and what happens with fuel when it sits too long and hasn't been any kind of stabilizer added to it. So once we got done with cleaning the carburetor out, we ended up having to replace the fuel pump as well because they had the wrong size. It was too small. There was a zip tied up there, so I got a generic universal fit fuel pump, added that on, and then we went ahead and changed the engine oil, the oil filter.
Fix it.